So nobody goes into ministry wanting to burn out, but we see it happen to pastors and ministry leaders all the time. And so today on Practical Church Planting, we're talking about 6 ways that you can stay healthy in ministry.
Well, welcome back to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brian Drosian. Joining me is Dylan Dodson. And today we're talking about 6 ways that you can stay healthy in ministry.
Brian, let's be healthy in ministry. Who doesn't want to be healthy in ministry? Now, here's the thing. Everybody always talks about it. And sometimes people say things that aren't helpful or kind of are helpful. But hopefully these 6 things are things you can actually implement so that you can be healthy in ministry, because a lot happens. And so no particular order. Here's number 1, probably the most obvious one, but it's important, is not to neglect physical health. And what's interesting is I feel like so many people, this is like one of the things that you're supposed to say, but in my, limited experiences, a lot of people don't have a plan of actually how they're going to do this. Mm-hmm. And so it's one thing to say it's important, but if it's actually important, you got to make it important. And I'll share, like, what's hard for me sometimes is personalities are different, but if you're similar to me, like, you like to accomplish things and get things done.
Yep.
And so sometimes it can feel like working out isn't something you're getting done. And so you just want to rush past it, or you don't have time for it. But again, if you want to last longer, then you got to be healthy. And I feel like everybody knows that, but there's a disconnect a lot of times between actually making it happen.
Yeah, I think the case with, we're probably going to say it's for a lot of them, but when it's something personal, I think in ministry, it's easy to put the personal things on the back burner when other things come up. When you have a busy schedule, or a lot of people calling you and wanting to set up appointments or things like that, it's easy to put things like that on the back burner. And it feels kind of weird sometimes to prioritize that over others, because it's like, if it's one day of missing it, it's not a big deal. I can pick it back up tomorrow or something like that. But then when you start building a habit of not fulfilling your habit, building a habit of breaking your habit, I guess you could say, then it just makes it that much harder, and it kind of just goes by the wayside.
I think what makes this hard for people that maybe don't have a plan of how they're going to stay healthy is there's a lot of guilt, or just you feel awkward, or you feel embarrassed to actually get started.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we feel like, well, I got to get healthy. And so you go from nothing to like trying to work out 5 days a week. But maybe it's just like taking 2 days a week to walk 20 minutes or whatever. But like just starting to build a habit of health, because, especially the younger you are, you can feel like, well, it doesn't matter, but the habits you develop now are harder to break later. And so it's just important to make it a priority if you want to last a long time.
Yeah. So. And health can mean many different things. Health doesn't mean got to be the fittest person in the world. Health just means prioritizing your health.
And the ironic thing about this is right now I have pink eye and a kind of a sore throat and been sick a bunch because I have little kids. And so that makes it fun too. But as best as you can, you want to stay healthy. So that's number 1, not to neglect your physical health. Number 2 is to prioritize time with your family. Now, here's interesting. Why don't you talk a little bit what that looks like? And then I'm not going to say the opposite, but I want to say something that I think this is, well, I'm not going to say anything yet. You explain what that means, and then I'm going to share a different perspective.
Okay. I have no idea what's coming up next, but it's kind of self-explanatory. Prioritize time with your family is make sure your family is a priority, that you're not making time for family be after you fit in all ministry related things, and then whatever time's left in the day goes to them. But it's prioritizing whether it's daily things or, weekly kind of larger things you can do with the whole family. It's making that a priority. And as other things come up, it's scheduling around them and actually putting it in your calendar, and not just saying, we'll do something Friday unless something doesn't come up, but it's in your calendar. And if something else does come up, that other thing needs to be pushed to the side.
Yeah. And one of the ways you can do that is, saying we're not going to be out more than how many ever nights a week it is.
Sure.
And if you already have a full week, then hey, if somebody texts you or wants to do something Tuesday or Thursday, you're going to say no. And knowing like what your limit is makes it easier to say no. Because I think sometimes in ministry we have a hard time saying no because we don't have something we have to do, but then we just end up saying yes all the time.
Yeah.
So like if I have someone that texts me and wants to hang out, and even though we don't have anything planned as a family that night, knowing we had 2 or 3 other nights busy with stuff, I'll say no, because Christine and I have said that that's our limit.
Yeah.
There's some weeks where there's going to be more, but for us it's 2 or 3 weeks. And then when we have community groups going on, like that counts as a night. So like, don't say, well, that doesn't count. Then you have 4 other things on top of that, 'cause that's a night as well.
Yeah.
And so being able to say no, having a good practical thing is to talk with your spouse and say, what is our limits, generally speaking, and say, we're just going to say no. Even if it's like that, that's a fun thing to go out and do. You want to build a habit. You want your kids to know and your spouse to know that you want to be with them. And so saying yes and having stuff to do every night is one of the quickest ways to kind of mess up that. Now,
that didn't contradict anything I said.
That is totally true. With that, here's what I've also seen in church planting world, which may be contradictory, is yes, I've seen people talk about how their family is their first ministry priority, but then not do ministry.
Okay.
And what I mean
Right,
is that's
right.
it's like, dude, like, what do you, like, you're planning a church or whatever, and it's like taking forever, and you're not meeting with people, you're not fundraising, but I see a bunch of pictures of like, family's my first priority,
Yeah.
which is great, but you also do have to work.
Yeah.
And so don't use that as an excuse to say, and I know all situations are different, so I'm just generally speaking here, we're never going to have any nights where we're doing ministry stuff. Well, you probably shouldn't be in ministry.
Right, that's not
if
realistic.
that's your,
Yeah.
and that's fine if that's your conviction, but you probably shouldn't. And so your family is your first priority, but you still have to work hard.
Yeah.
And so
I think with all these, the key here is balance. It's not like when it's not prioritized physical health in terms of that needs to be the number one priority above everything else. But it needs to be a balance where you're keeping these things in mind while doing ministry, not in place of.
yeah, and one of the struggles I've had too is thinking, especially when earlier on, and we're still quite early in New City Church's life, but like the first year, like feeling guilty of like, well, 9 to 5 ish is whatever when you're supposed to work, and so I have to work then, and then I have to do some stuff at night. But it's like you do have some flexibility. Like if you're gonna have a bunch of nights where you got stuff going on, then take the morning or take the afternoon with your family. Like you can do that as well. So don't use it as an excuse not to work hard. But also make sure it's a priority. It's in your schedule to spend time with your family. That's number 2. Number 3 is creating healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries. Brian, tell us about healthy boundaries.
Healthy boundaries can mean a lot of different things. It can mean relational boundaries in terms of, obviously as a pastor, you're going to hear everybody's issues. That's part of it. And you need to shepherd people and lead them through life. But there's a line you have to walk of setting up boundaries where you're there to help people, but you're not there to be a dumping ground for everybody. But there's also boundaries when it comes to your time, of how you're spending your day, of how you're letting people kind of influence your day and influence how you're spending your time when you're working.
Yep. And not the episode before this, but 2 episodes before this, we talked about 3 ways to help your wife thrive in ministry. Like those are some boundaries of like, if you're a ministry leader, making sure people in your small group, for example, are some of your friends.
Sure.
Like making sure you're prioritizing spending time hanging out with people that are just friends and not someone that you have to be a pastor to.
Right.
So creating fun and healthy like it's okay to, again, I think sometimes we feel so guilty to do anything that we want to do or anything that fills us up. But if you're going to last for the long haul, you've got to do that.
Yeah.
And so again, with your time, with people, I think the biggest thing I've seen, and I would encourage for people in ministry, is what I just said, is to make sure you're planning time to hang out with friends where you can just be yourself. Even if they're part of your church and you're still their pastor, you don't have this pressure of like you have to be on.
Right.
Or, stuff like that. Or I would say even this for people, especially if you preach every week, it can be easy, especially in the early phases of a church plan, if you're just trying to survive, to say yes. And maybe you're not preaching, but saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
But making sure you have calendar times. I'm going to do this and I'm not going to change it. So this is something that I've gotten much better at recently when it comes to preaching. Is like, here's the day. I've tried a bunch of different things. So for me right now, it's Tuesday. Like that's my main day that I spend on preaching stuff. And I don't do anything except I might schedule a lunch if it's close to the church.
Right.
That's the only thing I would do. And sometimes I get done early and it's fine and it's great. But actually saying, no, I'm not going to meet with people in the morning. I'm not going to do anything but this, has made that process a lot less stressful. And so whether it's preaching or whatever, prep, whatever it is, like having some like hard work hours that you're going to focus on this, I have found I didn't do that great early on. It caused a lot of stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so again, creating boundaries relationally and work to say, I'm focusing here. That's the third thing you do. Number 4 is that you can plan time for fun and relaxation. So this kind of goes back with last point about feeling like you have to say yes all the time. So I'll give you something that people will probably be like, dude, that's what you do. But just to give you an example of what this looks like. So for Christina and I, we're big Duke basketball fans. And we actually don't have a lot of like tons of common interests. Like she loves coffee and I don't and blah, blah, blah. And so that's one thing we do, that we actually put all the Duke games on our calendar. And unless we have like something that we just have to do, like we won't plan anything. And if it's a big Duke game, like Duke Carolina or Duke against another ranked opponent, we won't plan it. I don't care what it is. We're not going.
Yeah.
And people will be like, well, that's dumb. Like it's just sports. But it's like, it's something that we enjoy together. And they only play like 35 games a year. So that's 35 days out of 360 something. Like it's important to plan, to have a good time, to relax, whatever that looks like for you, and to not feel guilty about doing it.
Yeah, I know for us, my wife Brittany, she was on an episode we did a few weeks ago. I forget which number it was, but about working with your spouse. And one of the things that we've done is Friday here at New City is kind of the day off. We don't work on Fridays, and so we plan, since we have a kid who's in elementary school and we have the house for ourselves, we plan to every Friday during the day spend time together. So as the other things come up, which things have come up, where she was asked to be a part of Bible study, she wanted to be a part of, we have to say no to things because that's the only time that we're able to prioritize some time together, or that's the only time we're able to have some time together without other things going on.
And again, I think this is something that we know that we're supposed to do, but then we don't actually do it.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad if it's a weird hobby that people are like. If people find out, not that I hide it, that I plan around Duke basketball, they'd be like, "Dude, are you too obsessed with sports? Is it like an idol?" And it's not. It's just something fun that we like to do.
Yeah, totally.
So whatever that looks like for you, don't feel bad about it. Put in your schedule, and you don't even have to tell people why you can't make somewhere. It's just you got something planned.
Yep.
So number 4, take time to plan and relax. Here's number 5, and this is to take a Sunday off. And by Sunday off, I don't mean don't preach or don't do your normal responsibilities. I mean don't even go.
Don't even show up.
Now that's hard to do, and I'll be honest, I have only done this once so far. I could have done it a couple of times, but part of this is like I enjoy being here.
Right.
Like the week that we had our second, we had him like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and it was a Sunday morning, and like there wasn't anything for me to really do, but so I mean I went. We only had one service at the time, and so it was like a fun thing. But I noticed like when you don't even show up at all, even if you're not preaching normal responsibilities, you're still thinking about Sunday. You're still thinking about it and everything that's going on. When you're not showing up, you may still be thinking about it, but you know there's nothing you can do anyway. And so if you have never taken a Sunday off where you just don't even show up, I would highly recommend and encourage that. And it can be easy, especially if you're a little bit more flexible like we are. Like it's like we take time off during the week, or if we go on a vacation or whatever. It's not like we never have time off. We can kind of choose it more, so it's easier to be here on Sundays. But I remember the first Sunday that I took off, I was like, oh man, this was like extremely relaxing because I couldn't even be there, so I didn't have the same thoughts and worries that I normally did that week.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm not a lead pastor, so it's a little different scenario. But past 2 years, I think I've taken one Sunday off because we were out of town, and it's relaxing. I mean, we here at New City, we shut down the week after Christmas.
Right. So that's happened a couple of times.
Yeah. So that's one we kind of, because we want volunteers and people to take advantage of that as well, to take a week off. But yeah, obviously this isn't something you do on a monthly basis or anything like that, but taking the once in a while week off, I think is healthy.
So my challenge is, if you've never done that, try sometime in the next 3 months to just plan it and see what happens and see, how it helps.
And you'd be surprised how well things run when you're not there.
Right. And if they go badly, well,
then you got other issues to work on too.
But then it's like you're not there to see it though, and the church will survive. Like if it's terrible, it's like, well, you weren't there anyway, so it's okay. That's fine. And then number 6, this again, I feel like these last 3 we kind of know we should do, but then we feel bad doing them.
Yeah.
And that is to go to a conference or join a local ministry leader pastor gathering, or do both. So there's a couple of conferences that we go to. One is Exponential, which is we're going to it again this year. It's in March. I think it's like my 4th time going. And part of it is like it's you learn and you go, but every time I go, it's fun. You spend some time with your friends, and it's also a time to get away and to just dream without the normal things of life and work and all that sort of thing.
Right.
And so there's a great time to refuel. I think sometimes we kind of like make fun of conferences and like say they're not worth it, or there's so many. There are so many. Don't go to all of them.
Right.
But go to a conference and just dream a little bit and invest in yourself, and or both if you can. Find a local pastors gathering that you can join that meets monthly or however often it does where you live, where you can build relationships and get to know some people in some other churches.
Yeah, I think conferences are great if you treat them the right way.
Right.
There's obviously there are wrong ways to do it, where you go and try and overhaul everything you do because of things you learned in one weekend. But however, if you go with the right mindset, to take a few things away and use it as a time to recharge a little bit and kind of recharge your mind. I think it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, like this. So this year I'm going to 2, possibly 3, and that's it. So it's not all the time.
Yeah.
But it's just time to get away and to just talk to other people who understand what life's like for you and learn and grow.
Right.
So those are 6 ways you can stay healthy in ministry. Again, don't neglect physical health. Prioritize your family. Create healthy boundaries. Plan time for fun and relaxation. Take a Sunday off and go to a conference or a ministry leader gathering in your town. Thanks for being with us. As always, you can go to practicalplanting.com/questions to submit a future question. And you can also go out to our YouTube channel. We were on our New City Churches page, but then we switched Practical Church Planting to its own.
That's right.
And so you can watch all the videos there as well. Thanks for being with us, and we'll be with you next time on Practical Church Planting.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.